Take your Bibles, please, and turn to 1 Kings chapter 19. 1 Kings chapter 19. Have you ever observed somebody who was, just by looking at them, you could tell they were discouraged? You ever seen anybody like that? You ever know anybody that was so low they could play handball with the curb? Huh? You ever known anybody, met anybody that their day started at rock bottom and went downhill the rest of the day? You ever know anybody like that? You say, preacher, you're talking about me. Well, join the club. You know, I didn't know that in my early years as a Christian. I thought I would go to church. I was just a young teenager, but I went to church, and you know, teenagers are not, you know, their brain isn't really formed all that well at some point, and mine wasn't, I don't think. And so, I would be like, go to church, and everybody looked so happy, and they all loved Jesus. And I said, why am I not always happy? And then I went to my first Baptist business meeting, and that just blew my whole mind there. I mean, it was like one of those. And so I thought to myself, I must be the only one here that doesn't have it always together. I must be the only one who sometimes comes to church and sings, "Oh, how I love Jesus," but I'm thinking, Lord, what are you up to? You know, why is this happening? Can I get anybody else like that? Am I the only one? Anybody else like that? Okay, some of you say, I can tell. Some of you are not going to participate anyway. But that's fine. Okay, but you're there. And I appreciate that. Okay, and we are. And we got to just face the facts, okay? That life is not lived on a plateau unless you're brain dead. And then they go, but if it's not that way, okay, then life's going to be up and down, okay? So, why... This is like almost like a sidebar, like pulling off on the side of the road. You know, you have it on a road where there's two lanes, and every so often there's a place to pull over if you're slowing down traffic, and the others can go around. Well, this is like a pullover here in chapter 19, because we're on the series, as it says, the kings of Israel and Judah. And though the king is mentioned in the first verse here, the rest of the chapter really has nothing to do really that much with him at all, towards the end some. It's about Elijah, who is going through the valley of the shadow of depression and discouragement. So I couldn't go past here without saying, well, maybe we could use that. It's February. We just had 3 days of prayer and fasting, which meant if we're trying to get close to God, the devil's not going to sit by the dock of the bay and watch tide roll away and say, oh, that's fine, you get closer to God. No, he's going to work on it. I can guarantee if you had a blessed last 3 days, okay, I don't want you to get paranoid about tomorrow, but I would pack chocolate if I was you. Okay, I'm going to pack chocolate tomorrow is what I'm going to do, dark chocolate. And because the devil does do that. He does for me. And so I want to encourage you about that. You say, well, thanks, preacher. I'm not going to participate next year. No, but I hope that you will. And let God speak to your heart. Now, what we're going to do this evening, is we'll lay the foundation, and then we'll start. And just to be honest, in fair disclosure, we'll get done when we get done. And we're going to stop at 8. So if we're not done by 8, which I doubt we will, then we'll just finish next week. That's what we have to do. I want you to. I think this is worth taking a little bit of effort. Okay, because we all have to deal with this. Okay. If you're married, of course. If you're not married, of course. If you have children, of course. If you don't have children, of course. That's what we all do. If you're breathing, you have to deal with this, okay? So let me give you a couple of definitions to write down if you're interested, if you're taking notes. If you're not, just listen real attentively then. Okay, here's the first one, okay? Working definitions, okay? Number one, depression is the abiding feeling that life is not working. It's just not working. This is not how it should be, okay? This is not a clinical definition. This is not a scientific one. This is the result of 40 years of counseling and dealing with people all over the place. It's just life's not working. Because not too many people are depressed when they get a raise and can pay cash for a brand new car and all their kids are behaving. These are not depressed then. Not depressed if the bank account is up and the doctor says you're healthy, you're going to live to be 200 years old, and all the tests are negative and you're wonderful and you're healthy, and your spouse thinks you're the greatest thing that ever breathed air, and your kids worship you in a sense like you're just like you're like number one in their life. That's a dream world, isn't it? Okay, but that moment may occur in your life for anywhere from 15 to 16 seconds, but the rest of your life, it's not going to be that way, okay? And so when it's not working like in big times, we get depressed. And then I want to talk about anxiety just for a moment. There's a reference here that you can look at if you, not now, but I'm not going to take that time. We actually will look at Psalm 73 later on in this study, but anxiety is the intense feeling of fear and loss of control. You see, when anxiety comes into our lives, we are, that's like depression on steroids. It's anxiety, okay? Having had in my early 40s a couple of anxiety attacks, I will tell you that if I had an enemy, I would not wish them on anybody, okay? They're just not fun. And I describe it as an emotional free fall that you just can't get your emotional balance. And of course, then people who see you having an anxiety attack say, oh, just feel better. Or just go home and sit and do nothing so you can have more of an emotional fall down, okay? Or they give you, they mean well, they do, they mean well. Particularly the ones that tell you to eat chocolate. They mean well, but it's really not the answer. And then that's anxiety, and of course an anxiety attack, that's the emotional free fall. I got ahead of myself there. That's the emotional free fall. And that's actually what happens here in a degree with Elijah, okay? This emotional free fall, where a man that goes from the mountaintop experience of praying down fire. I've never prayed down fire from heaven. A number of years ago, I had a really wise deacon. They had a very nice day for me about 10 years into my ministry there at South Hills in Raleigh. And they had a pastor appreciation thing or whatever. It was very, very kind, very nice. For 10 years of ministry, so forth. And they gave me some letters and stuff like that. All very kind. And I appreciated it. But then one of my deacons sent me a letter that arrived 3 days later. And he said, I know how it is sometimes when you have a mountaintop experience, your emotions can go down, just a human being. He said, you might need a bit of a pickup here at the end of the week. And he was right. Because that's how life is, isn't it for you? When you have your mountaintop experiences, you know one of the reasons why I take Fridays off? You know, it's not my off day, but it's the day I take off usually. And it goes all the way back to years ago. I heard a doctor talk about this, and it made sense to me, and I could see it in my own life, that for preachers on Sunday, it's an adrenaline rush because everything is focused on that, and so you have this thing. And so on Monday, the tendency is to have a adrenaline drop. It's not an issue of spirituality, it's just a physiological reality. And if you sit around all day, it cannot be positive for you. So I started a long time ago going into work on Monday, and it helped me get right back into the flow of things. And for me, it works really well. Now, I'm just telling you, you got to understand that not everything in your life is a spiritual battle, okay? Not everything is like a major spiritual battle in the sense that this is a sin thing. It might be you need some sleep. It might mean you need to eat something, okay? It might mean you need just to unplug because you've been going and putting stress on your body and your mind that no human being can stay under indefinitely, okay? So those are all things you need to think about, okay? Now, with that said, I want to ask you to write out, we have in front of you the emotional flow chart. You've heard me say this before to you, so this would be really easy and old hat for many of you. But here is the emotional flow chart. Here's how emotions function, okay? Now, you say, not for me, preacher. Just hear me out, okay? In the book of Luke, we're not going to turn to it because of time. Then we'd be here for 3 weeks, okay? In Luke 24, there's a narrative where Jesus confronts two of his disciples who are depressed on the road to Emmaus. And he says to them, why are you sad? And that word means to be discouraged, despondent, forlorn, the world has come to an end. In other words, it's Eeyore. Okay, they're just stuck in the Eeyore world. Everything is just awful. And he asks them how they're feeling, okay? and why they're sad. And then they ask him a question, and then he responds by challenging what their thoughts. Now watch this, okay? Your thoughts would produce your feelings. The reason you feel the way you feel is because you think the way you think. It's true for all of us, okay? Okay? Now, you say, well, no, I've got postpartum depression, I've got this, I've got that. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But Jesus taught by example that thoughts produce feelings, okay? So when my feelings are taking me away from God's will, as in the case of here with Elijah, okay, it's because I've bought into a lie. Now, I don't know if you can see the lines. I guess you can see the lines here. They don't appear for me that well, but you can see them here. So the lie, okay, becomes the basis of my thinking, so my feelings change, okay? So if I bite into a lie, it's going to bring me down into depression and anxiety attacks and despondency and depression. Now, here is the key, okay? The key is that I've got to allow and define what the lie is so I can figure out what the truth is that needs to displace that. So I have feelings, thoughts, lies, and truth. So how do I change my feelings? The world says change your feelings by going on vacation, or change your feelings by drinking this, or taking this, or doing that, just whatever you need, whatever makes you happy. Okay? But the problem with that, this is simply an act of medication. Okay? I've told you this illustration before, but since it applies, I'm going to tell it here one more time. Please forgive me. But Theodore Roosevelt's mother and wife died the same night, one on one floor, one on the other. The mother, because she was, I guess, old, and then the wife, because she was giving birth to their only daughter. He goes into deep depression and anxiety. He leaves the baby with his sister, goes out west, does the rough riding thing in cattle or buffalo, all that stuff, and then finally writes home to his sister and says, finally, for the first time, I can sleep at night. Well, I've never rode horses or did cattle or rode on the plains and killed buffalo, but I bet you if you did that all day long, you'd be pretty tired. And all he was doing was medicating the feelings. Now, you can do that if you choose, but when the medication ends, the feelings are still there. Why? Because the thoughts are still there. Why? Because the thoughts are based on something that's not true. Okay? So how do you fix it? Well, here's how you fix it. Okay? The truth has to displace the lie. Now, you can't get there, and here's the problem with this. You can't get there until you've taken time to honestly face yourself. This is how I'm feeling. And then you take time to define what are your thoughts. And then, which is a hard thing, what's the lie that I'm buying into that's governing these thoughts? And then I have to find the truth of God's Word that can displace the lie, that then becomes the basis of my thinking, and then my feelings change. You say, well, I'll just take a beer, or some more chocolate. Or the doctor will give me something, and I don't have to worry about it, okay? Well, that's your option, but I'm just saying that's what happens. So what happens is this, okay? When truth becomes the basis of my thoughts, then my feelings change. Now this is really simple to diagram. It's really simple to show when you work your way through Luke chapter 24 and Jesus with the disciples on the road to Emmaus. But simple is not the same thing as easy. It's like, now you skinny people know nothing about this, but for the rest of us who live in Fat City, USA, we understand that we're always losing weight. I calculate in my life, I've lost between 12 and 15,000 pounds probably. I will gain 5 and lose 6, and I will gain 2, and I just keep going down. I said, I'm not going to do it. But anyhow, losing weight is a multi-billion-dollar business worldwide. I'm not talking about just cutting off legs. I mean, actually losing weight so you can still function, okay? But you know how simple it is. Stop eating so much. Or stop eating what you're eating. If you eat less and burn up more calories, all you scientists out there, what's going to happen? Are you going to lose weight? I mean, unless you have a physical condition, like if you're Italian. But I mean, if you don't have a physical condition, or you've given birth to some kids and you're a lady, and we don't want to go there. Okay, but what the doctors say. But the point is, but that's the fact. Isn't that true? Okay, so, but anybody who's been in Fat City, USA understands it's a lot easier to say than done. Because we speak chocolate, we speak ice cream, we speak, what do you mean one piece of pizza? Come on, four is good, If one's good, four's even better. Okay, so it's not easy. This is not easy, but I'm telling you, it is the answer from Scripture. Okay, you say, well, I got a condition. Okay, you got a condition. I'm not a doctor. Okay, never been a doctor. Have stayed at the Holiday Inn Express one time, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't really tell you. I tell people, I have to give this disclaimer. I always do this when I talk about this topic, okay? The medication question always comes up. And to save the church from a lawsuit, I want to give you this, okay? And that is this. Medication can be to depression what a cast is to a broken arm. It can create a condition for healing to take place, all right? But, and I tell people, when I give this out publicly, I always make this point. If you are on medication for antidepressant, you do not take this message home and take your antidepressants you've been taking for the last 16 years and throw them down the toilet, okay? You do not do that. There's a Greek word for that. It's called dumb, okay? Why? Because you got to do that stuff wisely, okay? And there are medical things I don't know nothing about. You got to talk to your doctor. Now, what I have told people, and I've seen this happen with people, is they've considered a different way of handling the depression, and they've done it, and they've been able to get off of it. That's something they have to work through between them and God, and then them and their doctor, okay? So just so you'll know that, okay? And I'm not implying at all. The other thing, biblical counselors have two different views on this, but I'll tell you my view, and then you can have your own view. We can both have a cup of coffee after church. But here's my view. Some Bible counselors and Christian preachers and so forth say there's never an excuse for medication because it's always a spiritual problem and never a physical problem. To which I say, well, I'm sure, like Job's friends, that wisdom lives with you. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. Okay? And so, and you don't know what you don't know. And they call it the practice of medicine for a reason. They're practicing, okay? And so maybe 200 years ago, there wasn't tests, maybe for diabetes, or weren't a test for heart disease, whatever, and there is now, okay? There wasn't the knowledge that when you suck blood out of a patient with a leech, it's really not helping them feel any better, okay? But they learn differently. So we don't know. So I don't address what I don't know. But I give the biblical response and encourage people to take it, to apply it, and then let God lead them through the pattern. That's the point, okay? All right, enough of that. Okay, can we get the scripture, preacher? We are right now. But we need to set this up, okay? Chapter 19, verse 1. And Ahab, now who's Ahab? Somebody tell me who Ahab is. Help me real quick, class. Who's Ahab? He is the king of which kingdom? Northern kingdom of Judah, and it's called what? Israel. Okay, you can always answer it one time because you all know it, right? Israel is the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom is called what? Okay, let's try this again. The northern kingdom is called Israel. I'll say it, you answer. The northern kingdom is called, the bottom kingdom is called there you go, Judah, exactly, okay? All right, now Israel is also the name for the whole country at times, okay? Particularly in the United Kingdom before this point. They're divided. Ahab is the king of the northern, we're going through the kings of the northern kingdom. Ahab's the one we're talking about. He's a bad dude, okay? Now, in chapter 18, he marries a lady named who? Jezebel. Jezebel is a pagan princess from towards the coast of Israel, up north of the coast, very wicked. Her dad was the head king of the kingdom, but also the head priest of their idolatrous worship. So she comes, being the daughter of the head dude of that false religion. So she's just propagating it all around, okay? And Ahab is a wimp and an apostate and a heathen. And he says, fine, if you're happy with it, babe, I'm happy with it too. And so then chapter 18, you have that no water for no rain for 3.5 years. And so Elijah prays rain down, and they have that big deal. How many of the false prophets are killed in chapter 18? 400. 400 of them, mess of them. Okay? I mean, they're having just a slaughter. It's a high point. But now look at what happens here. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal he had slain all the prophets with the sword. And Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. Now what is she threatening there? To kill him. Make him like one of them, one of those 400 prophets. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. Okay? Now, let's start the outline, okay? And let's see how far we get tonight, which won't be far, but we'll get to started, okay? Number one, the cause of this. Why in the world is this happening? Well, first of all, because of fear. Fear resonates or abides in a value system, okay? So, your child has a butter knife, your young child. There's an outlet there, okay? The child goes towards the outlet with the butter knife to see what would happen if he sticks it in the electrical outlet. So, is there any anxiety on the part of the parent? It depends if you like them or not, right? No. Okay, no, you like them. So you're going to jump up, and you're going to, because you're afraid, right, of what's going to happen, okay? Because you value the child. And you know the difference. Now, if you didn't know the difference, or if you knew the outlet, well, I don't know what you would do on that, but you, because you know the reality, you're afraid. Fear isn't always bad. I think Karen had a class, didn't you, on fear a while back for the ladies? I think y'all talked about that. There's sometimes fears, why do I look both ways? You're in the parking lot with a kid. Now you got to look both ways. Why? Well, because you're afraid. Not afraid in a bad way, but afraid in a good way. You look both ways. Why? So you won't get hit by a car. All right? But there is a fear that is rooted in the wrong way. Now, let me give you a couple of references to write down. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Isaiah 41, verse 10 says this, fear thou not. Now, he's not saying don't look both ways, okay? But don't check, don't bounce your checkbook, whatever. He's just saying, don't be fearful. For I am with thee, be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee, yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. What he's saying is, don't be afraid, because I am going to be the one that meets your needs. Okay? 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So understand that God, when I am fearful and I am anxious and I am not living in the power of God, in the love of God, and in reasonable thinking, that's where anxiety attacks always originate or abide within thinking that is not sound. Now here's the challenge, okay? Here's the challenge. All of us, one of the books I'm working through right now talked about this, but I never thought about it quite like this, but it's true. All of us isolate ourselves from danger. All of us isolate ourselves from danger in this fashion. There are a million and one things that can happen to your body between now and tomorrow morning, right? I mean, your body could, just unlimited, almost unlimited, unnumberable things could happen to you in your body. This could happen, that could happen. One small vessel could do this in your brain, this and that. If you dwelt on that, you'd be paralyzed, right? So reasonable people, sound thinking people, narrow down to what is realistic to be focused on, what there is something to have to think about. Not every possibility, because you can't live that way. That's one of the dangers of 24/7 news coverage, okay? So everything is urgent news, everything's like this, and your brain, you can't function that way. You can't function with that kind of broad think, or look, might be this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. No, you can't do that. You have to purposely and consciously eliminate those things from your thinking and focus on what is sound and reasonable. You go to the doctor, he says, well, I want to be tested for this. And he asks you 5 questions. There's no reason for it. There's no symptoms for it. There's no cause for it. You just want to have the test. Well, I'm not going to do the test for you because there's no reason to do the test. There's got to be a reason to do the test to do the test. Okay? All right. Now, with that said, listen to this verse. 1 John, I'm sorry. Proverbs 29, verse 25. Proverbs 29, 25. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but those who put the trust in the Lord shall be safe. That's what was happening here. He is afraid for his life. Now, what happens a short time before that? He prayed fire down from heaven and brought rain. That's the God he serves. And the God that can stop at the rain for 3 years and can start it when God wants to and can bring down fire, couldn't that God keep you safe? He doesn't think so. He has a crisis of confidence. One more verse, Psalm 56. This is an important verse. Psalm 56, verses 3 and 4. Psalm 56, 3 and 4. It says, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. That's a powerful verse. You know why? It's powerful because it releases me from the expectation I'm never going to deal with fear. Are you looking to get to the place where you never have to deal with fear? That's called death. Okay? What time I am afraid, I will choose a different value system. I will choose to think right about God in this situation. And it's not easy. It's not easy. When our heart is broken, our life is confused, and people are doing things that hurt us, and they won't do the right thing. You ever want to take a 2x4 to somebody? I don't mean actually hurt them completely, but you really want to get their attention. Not to hurt them at all, rather, not to hurt them at all. Let me rephrase that. You don't hurt them, but you want to get their attention because you know what they're doing is wrong. You ever had that feeling about somebody? Yeah. I'm sure people have had that feeling about you sometimes. Because we all, okay. But here's the thing. I've got to trust in the Lord. So fear starts this whole problem, okay? The second thing, and we'll deal with this one, we'll start at least, is physical exhaustion, okay? He is making a 100-mile trip on the run. He left his camper at home. He left his credit card at home. He left his cooler at home to freeze the food that he had. He didn't have any of that. He is crossing difficult terrain with limited resources and limited opportunities for 100 miles. He is walking basically from here is 100 miles to Newport News. I don't know, Portsmouth, whatever. I don't know what it is. But he is walking a significant distance. Fast. Because if you're running for your life, you're not going, oh, let's just stop and look at this flower right here. This is a nice pretty flower. Let's sit in the shade for a minute. If you're running for your life, its feet don't fail me now. You're moving along down the road, okay? And so he is physically exhausted. Folks, let me tell you something. The cause of much depression and anxiety is being totally exhausted. Now that exhaustion can come from a number of different sources. I just want to mention these to you and then we'll land the plane and come back to it next week, okay? And this is the kind of thing, if you have questions, I'm glad to answer a quick question at the service, but if you have in-depth questions like your situation, I would encourage you to make an appointment and come in, let's talk about it, okay? If this like rang your bells, boy, I never heard that. I need some of that stuff. Well, then make an appointment. Come on in. Let's talk about it. Okay. But let's just move on here. What kind of physical exhaustion? It comes from two main sources. One, so letter A. It's not going to appear on the screen, but number one would be this. It is my resources are not being maintained. My resources are not being maintained. Okay. Let me let you in a little secret. It's not a secret, you can know this. Okay. When I go home at night, there are many evenings where I put my cell phone up and I will cut it off. And I will tell Karen, remind me to cut it on before I go to bed. You say, well, what if we need you? Well, then call me. Well, what if your phone is off? Well, then turn it on, I'll call you back. You say, what if it's an emergency? That's why we have 911. I mean, if you're not breathing, you don't want to call me, okay? I mean, but my point is, you should be on call 24/7 and always be available whenever we want you. Well, then I'll be dead if I don't take care of myself, okay? I don't actually get up at 4:30 in the morning to go lift weights and work out because I'm actually intelligent, okay? I do it because if I don't do it then, I know I won't do it any part of the day. So I do it then. If I was smarter, I would do it when you do and do it at a reasonable time. But that's when I do it, okay? Now why? Because I'm responsible to do the best I can with what I got to work. I got the natural, my resources have got to be maintained. That's why you sleep. That's why you eat. That's why you go to the doctor. That's why you, whatever. That's why you do these things, because you want to maintain your resource. That's a responsibility, okay? Now, I'm told by people in the military says, you belong to us, so they take care of your teeth and your ears and your eyes and all your health issues. Not because they actually care about you, because they're going to throw you in battle, and if you die, you die. They're going to bring somebody else up to go in the battle. But sorry about that, I shouldn't have brought that up right now. But the point is, but they do it because you're their equipment. It's the same reason why the B-51s, they make sure they're kept up, because they're the tool. I mean, I don't mean to be cruel, but that's just how it is. Okay? So we don't take care of our resources. The other thing we do, I've got 52 seconds, and we'll talk about it. The other thing we do is we use our resources in ways they weren't designed to be used. Okay? We use our resources in ways they're not designed to be used. You have a heart condition. You have a thing. It's not urgent. It's not a 911 thing. You go to the doctor. You need to see Dr. Shivago over here, Dr. Doolittle, a very good heart doctor. And you call and say, yes, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Secretary. The doctor said to see that doctor. I need an appointment. And he said, yes, sir, Mr. That'll be April 15th. It's February. Yes, sir. It'd be April 15th. My doctor said I needed to see the heart doctor. Yes, it'd be February 15th. Well, why won't doctor see me? Do you think he's busy all day? No, he's going golfing. And he's going on a cruise or whatever. Maybe not a cruise nowadays, but he's doing something. Okay, he's living his life. But that doctor wants to be seeing patients 6 years from now and 16 years from now, if he's young enough, okay? And so he has to take care and not overload his resources, because if you walk into him and he's like, what's wrong? He can't always stand up. Well, that's not really a good thing, okay? So we'll talk about it next week.